And we're live. Hello, Andrew Bone. I'm Tim Watts. We're doing a live show while trying to get all the information and stuff we need to on BamaOnLine.com. We see C-Fed is not waiting around. Old school Ted Knight reference. Roll Tide. Welcome, Hunter Ketchum. I'm Tim Watts, BamaOnline.com publisher, and with me is the man in black, Andrew Bone. He is currently getting a link on the site. He is not being rude, but he's usually rude to me. Well, anyways, we're here for a commitment. It's Monday. Big news. Alabama fans have definitely been waiting for this, Andrew, because we had so many visitors in town, no commitments. And I mean, if you followed this last year, they usually don't come on Monday. This is kind of rarity. In fact, we knew this was happening Friday night. Saturday, it was kind of ironclad that Alabama's going to get a guy they've been pursuing very heavily.
Yeah, for sure. And Sam Utu is a guy that they offered more than a year ago. He had not had an opportunity to visit campus, obviously, all the way across the country, but finally had that chance to visit in March, and was really blown away by the trip. Really connected well with the coaching staff. They went out and saw him multiple times back in January, again this spring, and that relationship just continued to grow. And he felt really comfortable in Tuscaloosa. Loved the surroundings. Loved the loved the church that he went and visited. Met with the team chaplain, and really just felt at home. Talked to his mom earlier today, and she said, he told me on Friday night, "Are you ready to move?" And she asked him, "What do you mean?" And he said, I think I found my home. So he knew on Friday night, once he stepped foot on campus, that Alabama was going to be the choice. And today he decided to go ahead and with that decision.
We've known Alabama's targeted this guy for a while. When we say big, we don't just mean it's the normal big. I mean, he is a monster, 6'5", 330 pounds on his official visit, size 14 shoes, 10 plus hands, 80 plus wingspan. I mean, this guy has everything you're looking for. And despite all that, we saw his high school tape, but it was a video we saw of him just working out that kind of stood out the most to me. This is a big athletic guy.
Yeah, really big. Carries his weight well. He's like I said, 330 pounds. He looks like he's 285. So he carries it really well. And I think that's what Alabama likes about him is he's a big physical kid, but he's also got the athletic ability, the footwork that he can play on the outside. I think they look at him as an outside interior type of player. They weren't just recruiting him to play on the inside or come in and play tackle. They think he can play multiple spots, and we've seen that with a lot of different guys at Alabama, not just Kalen, DeBoer, and his staff, but even the previous staffs. They've recruited guys that have that versatility that can play multiple roles if needed.
Yeah, position flexibility. And the reason it's invaluable is if you've got a loaded position at corner or guard, you got a guy that can kick out to tackle or vice versa, move inside, move outside. It increases their chance of being able to get on that field early. We had a feeling when Alabama got here, and you knew Courtney Morgan was the GM. This is an offensive line guy. Coaches tend to really go back to their position. Courtney's an offensive line guy. They've made a strong, concentrated effort on getting the offensive lineman they wanted. And last year, we thought they did a phenomenal job, A plus across the board. This year, this is the second commitment, and him and Cap, they're a formidable duo between, Coach Kapalovic and I should just say Cap. I know you're trying not to laugh, but go ahead. And Courtney Morgan. I mean, they're a formidable duo.
Yeah, they've done a great job, and just listening to Sam Utu's mom, talking to her earlier about the decision. She really raved about the relationship with those two guys. It was never awkward to have conversations with them. It was like running into your family again. They made you feel very comfortable, even when you not familiar with the place. She said they were very easy just to walk up to and have a casual conversation with. They're always joking around, always having a good time. But as we've seen on the recruiting trail, those guys have done a fabulous job of sort of being that tag team duo going after top offensive line targets. Obviously, Courtney's got his hand in just about every single recruitment, but especially on the offensive line. So that's been a great duo right there for the Crimson Tide during the last year.
Just speaking to just the general idea of what they do in these recruiting business, it's got a different flavor than it did with Saban, obviously. With Nick Saban, I mean, he was the show. Everyone wanted to meet with Nick Saban and watch him dance on Saturday night, have dinner at Friday night, get that one-on-one time at the lake or time at his house. Not that the other assistants didn't recruit, but they didn't have to really recruit like other colleges did because Nick Saban was larger than life. But we see this to me, what's impressive, it's not just a coach, and it's not just a coach and the coordinator. I mean, the Alabama kids, the kids that are already on campus that are committed there. Justin Hill is as visible as anybody. Dijon Lee, it's just a team effort starting at the bottom and going all the way through Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, one of the unsung heroes of of the first 2 weeks has been Alabama offensive lineman William Sanders. I mean, that's a guy that has really connected well with other offensive line targets. We heard that last week with Malachi Lee, who made his official visit, and said that was probably the best relationship he has with any current player on any team right now. Heard that again with Sam. He really talked about how they connected, not just on this trip, but on the first trip. Called him, like having an older brother already on the team, and was hosted by him throughout the weekend. So I had a great time. But yeah, I mean, I think you go back and you look at a lot of these photos that we saw from the weekend. I think we had 3 photos up in our lead slots on BOL over the last 24 hours. Every single photo was of different players with a whole collection of Alabama freshmen and sophomores, and we saw even a few upperclassmen. You usually see the underclassmen there, but there was a few upperclassmen who were also a big part of these last 2 official visit weekends.
You can just tell the guys that DeBoer personally has brought in. You can see them all hanging out and kind of bonding together. It has a West Coast flavor. Here's another California kid. We went from griping about California kids to nobody's even mentioning when they're from California. That's quite the change. But when you see all these guys coming in, and Alabama moved to 8th in the team rankings with only 6 players, that's quite a jump, moving up from number 12 to number 8. And they're going to jockey back and forth the whole time as long as this goes on. But, getting him on campus, I think Saturday for members of BamaOnLine.com, you had the news. Me and Andrew minding our business, 10 o'clock. Boom time, we have a prediction in. Steve Wiltfong, our national guy, was jumping in. All the feedback was good. We hear about good feedback on Saturday before. We don't always report it, but this wasn't your normal feedback, was it, Andrew?
No, and we talked about this before the weekend started. About a month ago, we had heard and kind of knew that Alabama was in the driver's seat. And then he took an official visit to Washington a few weeks back, and there was a lot of buzz coming out of Washington. And even his mom said, we even thought that Washington was going to be the choice at one point, but that was until we stepped foot on campus. And we said it last week. We said, this is a guy to really watch. Once he makes it back to Tuscaloosa, we felt like Alabama had a really good chance based on their first visit and then the in-home visit with Courtney and Cap last month. We felt like this was going to go in the Tide's direction. This was probably going to be the last visit, even though Texas and Tennessee were going to get, we're on the schedule for official visits. We knew that if he left Tuscaloosa without making a commitment, he may not ever make it to Alabama, but shut it down. Great job by Alabama, and like I said, this was a kid that they highly coveted, from the get go, and before anybody really kind of knew who he was. He was one of these quiet kids, not active on social media. Not this big 5-star elite recruit that everybody tries to focus on, but he's. You watch his workout videos. I mean, they are extremely impressive. And, Alabama, they've seen him enough, and he was a top priority for them.
Do us a favor. We appreciate everybody that's joining in. We're jumping into 150 range here at 2 o'clock on a Monday. Hit that like button and subscribe. We're obviously more active during the recruiting season. We're going to keep this thing rolling into the season. If you want to see more YouTube videos, let us know. That's the quickest and easiest way to go. And if you're not a member of BamaOnLine, give it a try. It's $1 for a week. I think people will testament that it's a pretty fun place to be. You kind of knew this was coming, and it blends in with the YouTube show. Plus, Andrew and I are very available. He's probably answering a question on the message board right here. I'm not even kidding. So, Andrew, finally got official visitor to commit. It felt like last year everybody kind of forgot how this trickle-down effect started. But we're seeing a lot of momentum. And one more thing, we're going to have not a live show, but we're going to have another show tomorrow recapping the official visitor weekend, just like we did last weekend, Tuesday, and then towards the end of the week, either Thursday or Friday, we will have a preview of the next weekend. So we'll be rolling these out. Appreciate you guys for jumping in here and saying kind things, and anybody watches the show. All right, Andrew, we got official visitor in the books. We got one. He visited. He committed on Monday. We didn't even have to wait till Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. What are we expecting? Because we're seeing a lot of positive momentum. We won't get too much into the show tomorrow. We're going to focus more right now on Utu, but we're seeing that momentum pick up. Tell me your expectations.
Well, 2 more weeks, 2 more weekends of official visits are happening, and then we hit the dead period. I know a lot of people are wondering, why aren't there more commitments right now? Well, there's 4 big weeks in the month of June where players are taking their official visits. They want to enjoy that process. Don't worry too much about kids that are committing elsewhere. Worry about the guys that you're recruiting that are still on the board, because there's not really, I think maybe 1 or 2 guys that we've seen that Alabama's recruited have made commitments. The majority of them have not. So we're going to see those guys probably continue to take visits over the course of these next 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that, that's when you're kind of going to see the floodgates open with a lot of guys making decisions. You're going to see guys, hopefully not at Alabama, but you're going to see guys from across the country that are going to flip their commitments. Probably not for the first time. They're going to, some of them are going to be flipping for the third time. But that's
some are already 5 commitments in before they kick off their senior year
and still taking visits. So it's that's how things work. But hey, listen, I think with official visits right now, a lot of these guys are trying to make their final decision before the season starts. Season starts, you're locked into your season. Obviously, there are going to be visits that are going to happen, but things shut down. I mean, the dead period, it starts on June the 23rd, and recruits are not on campus again until September the 1st. So that's a pretty big gap. And we used to see a lot of these visits happen in late July. That's not happening anymore. So it's going to be big to get a lot of these guys on board this summer, because you probably feel really good about it heading into the season.
We'll answer Josh's question. Josh on 3 has him as a 3-star. It's June. I mean, there's a long way to go. I mean, we went through this with why isn't Kalen a 5-star? Why isn't Kalen a 5-star? I mean, you get the whole senior year. He's on the radar. He's a composite 4, and that's one of the reasons for the composite. It just gives the average, kind of takes away the liars. But obviously a big-time prospect. Alabama's happy to get with him. And the rankings are not done. They are not done. They're basically – haven't kicked off a single thing for their senior season. They've got their all-star games. They've got a lot more information that will come out, so that could definitely change. Andrew Bone, before we get out of here, what are we looking at this weekend? We got back-to-back weekends. We have, I think we have a visitor weekend kind of in flux, on the move. I don't think this thing's set up at all, and I think they're kind of picking and choosing based on the first 2 weekends what and who they want to bring in.
Yeah, should see a little bit of a smaller group, and I say smaller. I mean, there's still, I think, 8 official visitors currently confirmed. That number could change. May see a couple more added. Could see 1 or 2. That end up canceling. So we'll keep an eye on that. Alabama will have its second high school football camp on Saturday. But as far as official visits are concerned, I think 2 guys we're really kind of watching closely that everyone knows is Brandon Arrington, 5-star cornerback out of California, #1 corner in the country, will be back in Tuscaloosa, and also Nick Abrams, 4-star linebacker out of Maryland, will also be in town. But like I said, there's currently 8 players that are on officials this upcoming weekend, and then rolling into next week, it's going to be another big week. But we'll talk more about that in our other upcoming shows.
Before we get out of here, 6 commitments, heavy defense. So, I mean, right now, the guys I think most fans are looking for, the running back, the quarterback, the wide receiver, we'll have a lot of that on tomorrow. But you got 2 really good cornerbacks committed. You got 2 defensive linemen committed, and you got 2 offensive linemen committed. So for the old school Alabama fans who really want to live in the trenches, and they're really doing a good job for what we hear every year, went in the trenches, get in the trenches. They're doing a great job on both sides right now.
Yeah, and that's certainly an area that we're continuing to focus on. How will Alabama finish on the offensive line front, with some of their top targets still out there, like Malachi Lee, Bryson Cooley. How will they finish on the defensive side of the ball as well? You got Titan Davis, who's down to Alabama and Michigan. Obviously Tank Jones is going to be coming in for that official visit a little bit later on this month. Nolan Wilson has Alabama high on his list. So there's still some big time targets on the defensive front for Alabama. And I think they can still, add a couple more guys to the mix over the next, probably in less than a month.
Thanks for tuning in. If you get a chance, again, hit that like and subscribe button. Andrew, show them that thumb. Give us that thumb. Look, that thumbs up needs help. We need more likes and subscriptions to fix that thing. But we appreciate everybody that tuned in. We'll have a show tomorrow. Anytime we're available and there's a breaking commitment, and there could be more. There will be more this summer. That's my hot take. Bama will get more commitments. We'll be here. Appreciate everybody for joining in. Roll Tide. Andrew, tell them goodbye.
Yep. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the BOL Roundtable.